So that then brings me to what I'm starting to see the early signs of. And it is the Democrats making sure that they use everything they can right now to create an unfalsifiable narrative of Trump cheated if he wins. That's going to be a thing you hear. And even more than that, and this is where I start to get really concerned, you see a movement among Democrats to create narratives, and we know the power of narratives. We know how dangerous they can be. For example, cops kill unarmed black men as part of an epidemic of racism across the country on a continuous and systematic basis. Therefore, let's defund cops. Let's treat law enforcement like they're the enemy. That's a terrible idea, and people are dying because of that. So I think it's important we all keep that in mind here, right? That narratives can push us to make very, very poor decisions. But you have, for example, the story of Russia collusion, which has just faded into the background, even though it was the single most prominent news story of the first 3 years of the Trump presidency. It was all a lie. We used to hear from so-called experts and big-time news journos, multimillionaire anchors on a nightly basis that Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier, was such a brilliant intelligence mind. Clearly, if he wrote this dossier, it must be true. We heard that there were going to be all these massive revelations, Adam Schiff and other Democrat members of Congress promising the other shoe would drop, tick tock, any day now. No, that was not true. That was all a lie. And what we saw was that lie wasn't just a media lie used for the purposes of a political weapon against the president, but also used as an excuse within the apparatus of the federal government to go after the president of the United States, to use the law enforcement apparatus to try and create this, not just an investigation, but a prosecutable offense out of nothing, to force an impeachment, to force a destruction of all that so far the Trump administration had been able to accomplish. We see all of this, and we understand very clearly that this was a deep state coup effort, right? We see that they were using these lies beyond just convincing people that Trump was evil, that Trump was bad. They were using them as the basis, as the predicate for investigation, as the justification for spying tools to be used against the president of the United States. And now we see something else happening. The story that's out there about Trump won't concede. Trump won't allow himself to be defeated in this election. It doesn't matter. He won't step down. Now, there's no basis for this, right? There's no reason to believe that this is actually true. But it doesn't matter that it's not true. The same way it didn't matter that Russia collusion was all a big lie. They are going with this. They're doing everything they can here because it is useful for as long as they can get away with it. It's useful to say things like Trump is a fascist. That's absurd. He's had the biggest opening for fascism imaginable if that's what he had wanted. And look who the real fascists are. Cuomo yelling at people that they need to do what he says or else. Newsom unleashing the force of the state to lock people down. Unless it's a protest, then it's okay. Remember how last week I said sarcastically, are rules just for the little people? We know they are just for the little people. Mayor Bowser of D.C. officially exempted. And I believe that I got the ball rolling here with a mega viral tweet. I'm just going to say it. That was seen all over the country saying, hold on a second. Why do we have a 2-week quarantine in D.C. for anyone who comes from certain states, but it doesn't apply to all the not socially distanced mourners at John Lewis's 4th funeral ceremony? Really? Ah, it's all political. Rules are for the little people. It does not. They don't care how much they have to lie. They don't care how they're distorting and destroying principles on a regular basis. It is useful in the moment. Hypocrisy is powerful if you embrace it, and that's what they've done. So we have these stories that President Trump is not going to leave office. This is based on nothing. We have stories about him as a fascist, or we even have people coming. Here's Jim Clyburn saying exactly that. Play 13.
What I said started about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago after one of his State of the Unions. But I feel very strongly that this man has taken on a strong arm tactics. And I feel very strongly that he is Mussolini, Putin is Hitler. I said that back then, and I believe that. I believe very strongly that this guy never had any idea about being one to peacefully transfer power. I don't think he plans to leave the White House. He doesn't plan to have fair and unfettered elections. I believe that he plans to install himself in some kind of emergency way to continue to hold on to office. And that's why the American people had better wake up.
Oh, we're supposed to wake up and believe this absurd lie. We're supposed to believe that Trump is a fascist who won't leave office if he loses. What are they saying this based on? Absolutely nothing. But in the meantime, you have the liberal intelligentsia, such as it is, the lib establishment, being very clear that they think that there might be a contested election. So they're trying to convince you Trump won't leave office if he loses. They're also telling you there's going to be an election that they don't think is going to be a clear victor on election night. But I thought Trump was so terrible. He's going to lose by so much. Oh, no. They know it is going to be a tight election. We all see that coming. And they're doing things like having John Podesta in a war game. This is written about in the New York Times. And this is how it goes. A big popular win for Joe Biden and a narrow electoral defeat presumably reached after weeks of counting the votes in Pennsylvania in a war game. For this war game, they cast John Podesta, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, in the role of Mr. Biden. They expected him, when the votes came in, to concede, just as Mrs. Clinton had. But Mr. Podesta, playing Biden, shocked the organizers by saying his party felt they wouldn't let him concede. Alleging voter suppression, he persuaded the governors of Wisconsin and Michigan to send pro-Biden electors to the Electoral College. In that scenario, California, Oregon, and Washington then threatened to secede from the United States if Mr. Trump took office as planned. The House named Mr. Biden president. The Senate and the White House stuck with Mr. Trump. At that point in the scenario, the nation stopped looking to the media for cures and waited to see what the military would do. The military deciding the election. These are very influential, powerful Democrats. This is the New York Times writing about this. And they're wargaming out what happens if Biden doesn't concede the election. And Democrats say, no, sorry, not letting it happen. Well, hold on a second. I thought they were worried that Trump wouldn't concede the election. Oh, what you're really getting here, I know you could say this is fantasy, this is wargaming. Why would they waste their time on this? This is absurd. Or is it? What you see here is a psychological refusal among the Democrat Party. And I don't mean this just a few Democrats, a few crazies. I'm not talking about Antifa here. I'm talking about the very top levels. Think of how much Trump has deranged them, and this presidency has emotionally wounded Democrats. They can't psychologically process how the country could elect this man. The thought of him being president for 4 years, us going through a pandemic, and then the American people still picking Donald Trump over the Democrat. It doesn't matter who the Democrat is. They simply cannot bear it. They can't bear it to the point where they're considering any and all options to stop it from happening. Given that they already tried the soft coup of the Russia collusion lie and the deep state against Trump, given that they've tried to convince some stealth Democrats, leave behinds in the administration or in the executive branch, to use the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office, all these, that they tried this preposterous impeachment of nothing that didn't go anywhere, given all these things, what do you think the Democrats are not willing to do the next time around? When you ask yourself that question, you see the options are narrowing with each passing week. They're narrowing, and that's also why they're trying to change the rules now. They will not accept Donald Trump winning 4 more years, just as they didn't accept Trump winning the first 4 years. That is what we're heading for now as a country. Understand that. Understand where we are going. There is no future in which Donald Trump wins re-election and Democrats accept it. So we might as well embrace this fight now. Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.